Video games are evolving. A medium that was once this revolutionary concept made by computer scientists has now become one of the biggest mediums of the 20th and 21st century. There have been many genres of games that have been developed since then. We got your 2D side scrolls, a classic. We got the first-person shooters, the genre where people basically started normalizing slurs and the N-word.
Fuck up, faggot. Look at you, you're prestige. Prestige, you fucking fag. Prestige.
We got hack and slash, a genre that is severely underappreciated. We got the Souls-like games that are just as overrated as the MCU films. Then we got open world games, which are the funny unlock this tower to see more of the map area, from hit games like Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And the main focus of this video, the horror genre, but more specifically, the survival horror genre. The survival horror genre has been kinda dead for a while, but recently the survival horror genre has been getting this sort of, renaissance. Don't worry, hack and slash games. You'll get your time in the spotlight soon.
Yeah, bitch!
Games like Resident Evil have been going back to their roots, with their 7th entry being more survival horror than their previous entries that are, over-the-top action. Kinda like RE6 with Chris wrestling a boulder. I need to fact check that if that was in RE6 actually. I never played RE6. Even Dead Space has its remake. And the original creator for Dead Space, back in 2008 to 2011, I believe, he came out with a recent game called Callisto Protocol. It's not a good game from what I've seen and heard, but we'll give them the benefit of that. Maybe it's a good game. We don't know. The PC port's kind of bad right now, but it'll get better with its patches. But those games aren't the topic for this video. Those are company games. Unfortunately, I did not pick the carpool life path in this playthrough. Instead, I picked the street kid life path. I'll be talking about a small indie game that was developed by one person. Can you guys make a guess? What's that? What? Choo Charles? No, you silly goose. It's gonna be Endoparasitic. Endoparasitic is a top-perspective 2D survival horror game. It was made by one person. The developer for Endoparasitic is named Narayan Walters, who also goes by Ms. Is in YouTube. He also made other games and participated in Ludum Dare. Ludum Dare is this sort of small platform where game developers, small indie game developers can share their games and compete with other players. I don't know. I think it's a whole kind of thing. It's like a showcase of games basically. For this video, we'll just call him Miz because it's just easier for me to say it. Last year, Miz participated in Ludum Dare 48, and he wanted to make a game that was the Wikipedia definition of survival horror. These are the main 3 points he wanted to focus on for the game: creepy atmosphere, combat that makes the player feel weak, and resource management. The moment you open the game, you will get an idea of how the gameplay will be. Your cursor is your arm, and from your arm, everything from the combat, the movement, and traversal, and the puzzles will all be from your arm. So, you just drag around, you just drag around your mouse. That's all you really need There's an option in the settings where you can just use the tab button. So, this button. But I really don't recommend it. Kind of ruins the immersion. And I think it's just way more immersive to use one arm since that's basically the entire game's gameplay. Without further ado, let's get into the game. The game opens with low-res images of what seems to be a spacecraft traveling through space. The spacecraft lands on a small facility on an asteroid. After the slideshow is finished, it shows a log message. Sample delivered to a research lab at 0233010299 and received by Synth. We are then shown a man getting 3 of his limbs amputated by monsters. The game tells us to click and drag. You drag yourself to what looks like an ironing machine and use it to cauterize your wounds. After that, you officially start the game. You start off in the laundry room.
There has been a containment breach. Abandon the premise immediately.
You drag yourself around just to get used to the movement of the game, and you pass through a scanner that informs you that there is a parasite detected. You find a syringe, and this is where you learn about your inventory. You use the scroll wheel of the mouse or the tab key as mentioned earlier to open your inventory, but again, don't recommend it, just use your mouse. Here you'll also see a bug that is slowly reaching to your brain. This is the parasite. The syringe pushes the parasite back. After injecting the syringe, you enter a room and find a square item. The game tells you to right-click with the highlighted objects. This square object is a memo. The memo reads, "In case of emergency, the medicine will slow the progress of the parasite, but will not eradicate it. Keep a steady supply at all times." So the syringe we just used don't kill the parasite. It just pushes it back and delay it from reaching your brain. If you don't inject yourself with the syringe, this will happen. You find another memo not far from here. It informs the player that some equipment was stored in containers with simple locks to prevent subjects from opening them. To open these containers, you need to match pin pairs by depth. These containers are the puzzles of the game. Lots of survival horror games include a ton of puzzles to progress through the story, or in this case, gain more items. The items in them will vary depending on the difficulty and the icon and the text on the containers. After you get the syringe, you enter a dark area of the room and enter the next level. Entering the next level, you pass by a terminal that you can interact with. The terminal explains the evacuation orders for the containment breach. It also shows you how to deactivate the evacuation orders. You need to reach the control panel in the maintenance closet B in order to deactivate the evacuation orders. This is where we hear the protagonist speak.
"We cannot afford to stop our research here. I have to end the evacuation orders."
He doesn't want to stop their research and is heading to maintenance closet B to end the evacuation orders.
Evacuation protocols cancelled. It is safe to return to research stations.
You enter the next level and this theme plays. This area is what I like to call the part where the title screen would usually play in an Assassin's Creed game. Music was by Jazz Mickle, who was hired by Miz. You can actually find a full soundtrack on Jazz's YouTube channel. I just wanted to say that Miz did develop this game all by himself, but he had the help of others and from friends to handle the story and of course the music. On this level, you find a short hallway with a dead body on the floor. You can't interact with it, and the protagonist shows no reaction towards his dead co-worker. Not even a short You can crawl over the body and interact with the terminal in front of the body. The terminal is about the Nautilus sample received, beginning preliminary research. And from this journal, you learn that the sample is older than their universe. The sample is 4.196 trillion years old, while this universe is only 14 billion years old. There are two theories that science the lead parasitologist and the author gives. The sample is somehow altered its appearance to look older, or it originates from a universe far older than our own. So I did a little bit of research with these terms I don't really understand. Like Nautilus. What is a Nautilus? Well, it turns out it's a real thing in our world, in our IRL, as the kids say. Nautilus is a pelagic marine mollusk of cephalod family Nautilidae. The tentacles from the nautili are actually cirri, composed of long, soft, flexible appendages which are retractable, which is similar to how the parasite burst out of Saint's head. This is the first ever description we get of Saint, the person that received the samples earlier in the beginning of the game. Saint is the lead parasitologist of this facility and is probably the smartest man currently in this facility, and is, probably well respected by his peers. I don't know, maybe? I don't know. You're joining me in this journey, bro. After opening the door to progress, you find a memo that informs all the employees that all research conducted in this building is confidential. No one knows this facility exists besides employees and members of the research board. Security breaches are punishable by death. This is the first ever description of how the facility works here and its priorities. Near the memo, you pass by a window and see a pile of dead bodies on the other end of the window. Again, the protagonist shows no signs of remorse, guilt, or sadness. He doesn't even make any sound. He turned off the evacuation orders and caused the death of his co-workers. In the same hallways, you get your introduction to the save system in the game. There is no autosave except when entering a new level every time you progress. The manual saves don't overwrite the previous save file, so you can go back if you get soft blocked. There's a 1-minute timer on the save box as shown by the red bar meter on it. This will prevent players from saves coming. You could wait, but by waiting you are losing time and giving the parasite time to progress. So you can either wait out the save so you have the safety of having a save and possibly use your vaccine, or risk your progress in the level so you can progress without using more vaccines. After saving, you run into your first enemy next to the button in order to progress. These enemies aren't named in the game, but they are called zombies by Miz. These are people who got infected by a parasite and were overtaken by it. It's idle and doesn't see you, so you have to move slowly and make sure you don't touch it. As you explore, you run into another enemy. This time it sees you. You can bait the enemy by allowing it to hit and then quickly drag yourself out of its hitbox. The enemy doesn't move when it's charging its attack. Speedrunners use this to their advantage in order to pile them up in one area so they can kill them in one go. On the next level, you find another terminal. It is written by Saint again. The journal notes that there is a 1 in 2.5 billion chance of immunity and anomaly rates. Saint found out that flies, the subject of the test he's doing, with anomalies survive longer than those without, but an infection is still fatal upon reaching the brain. A host would need both immunity and an anomaly to survive the infection, making the Adescula cerebrum a rather discerning of its host. From this journal, we learned the parasite inside our protagonist's name is Adescula cerebrum. From my very thorough research, Adescula means parasite and cerebrum obviously means brain. So it just means brain parasite. Progressing a little bit, you finally get your first weapon, a revolver. Next to the revolver is a body. The person is still alive. Well, barely.
Please. Please help me. You're past any help I could give you. All you can do now is pray.
That's coming a lot from a guy who got his 3 limbs ripped off and only cauterizes wounds with a fucking ironing machine. Already we are not getting a good impression from our one-limbed protagonist. Anyways, this is where we start to learn about the combat of the game. In order to reload the revolver, you have to manually put the bullets inside the wheel and you need to have the weapon in hand. Keep note that weapons do have recoil, so don't just keep spamming and have control when shooting. If you spam it, you could miss a shot and that's a bullet wasted. Keep count of how many shots it takes to kill enemies. Zombies take 4 revolver shots in total to kill. After killing the zombies, you find another terminal. It is a chat log between Lucy and Saint. Lucy's informing Saint that the board is requesting a meeting regarding a concern Pravi brought up to them and that she scheduled a meeting for the next day. Saint tells her no in the most pretentious way possible. Just another example of how much he is invested in his research and how much of a kind of an asshole he is.
I wonder if Lucy is still here.
On the next level, you run into a terminal that is a list of security protocols. These are pretty standard protocols to follow until you scroll down and read the 5th one. It says not, under any circumstances, reveal the lab location or research. So we can assume from this that the research facility is a secret and no one outside the facility knows about what they're doing. Well, we know that the facility was doing tests with the Adescula cerebrum. Maybe this is why Pravi went to the board for concerns. We the player still don't know much. Hell, we aren't even sure who we are playing as. If you didn't turn on the subtitles, I should probably mention that. Don't turn on subtitles. Please don't turn on subtitles when you're playing this game. After reading the terminal, you can hear a brushing noise. You go closer to the noise and find a wire that leads to a button that opens doors. You press it and nothing happens. An exclamation point appears and a small silhouette appears rushing towards you. Luckily, these guys are easy to kill and only require one revolver shot to kill them. These guys are annoying as hell. I don't have footage of me when I first played the game, but damn, these guys fuck me over a lot. Fuck you! Fuck you! You need to draw your gun fast. These guys were made to stress you. Don't panic and just rapidly shoot. Just draw your gun the moment the exclamation point or the hissing noise it makes when you hear footsteps. The footsteps noise are your only indication of where it will be coming from. Not really important, but there will be a memo from Poppy telling the employees to stop smoking in the decontamination tunnel. Even the employees don't give a shit anymore about this job. But I could be looking into this way too much. So I tried looking into why people smoke at work, and I found something interesting from the Institute for Work and Health. They did a study where they examined the link between working conditions and tobacco smoking habits. They don't have a final answer, but they did say that smoking may be a coping behavior to deal with poor working environment. As well, workers with heavy demand or less social support at work may be less receptive to anti-smoking and health promotion programs. I mean, considering with the kind of conditions the facility is doing and their rules and regulations and how secretive this entire thing is, it's totally understandable. I think it's understandable for why the workers were just smoking their asses off. After the memo, you can open the door to a supply room, then you can proceed to the decontamination tunnel to progress. After passing through the tunnel and fighting a bunch of zombies, you enter another laboratory, and if you go to the bottom right of the room, you can find a small room that will have an inventory pack that gives extra 4 slots. These are scattered throughout the game. There is an achievement if you manage to find all, but this wasn't really known by a lot of players and you'd have to be looking for them or even know that they existed, because this achievement came out with the hard mode patch. So I didn't get the achievement because in hard mode there are fewer inventory packs, so if you want to get the achievement, then play normal difficulty. On the next level, you find a terminal by Pravi. I forgot to mention, he is the research assistant. He is underneath Signed. Here we also learn the name of the vaccines is called toxoplasmosis vaccine. Toxoplasmosis vaccines are indeed real and they are used for people infected with the toxoplasma parasite. Pravi managed to alter the vaccine into an extremely temporary vaccine for the Secula cerebrum parasite. Pravi also stated that Signed claims that the vaccines are useless, but we know that he still placed the vaccine through the facility and he did it in case of an unlikely breakout. After exiting the terminal, our protagonist speaks.
Pravi, always finding ways to seem like he's in the right.
Talks as if he knows Pravi, or at least he thinks he knows Pravi. He sounds kinda annoyed towards him. After progressing, you enter the next level. And my god, this section of the game on my first playthrough was the most stressful thing ever. You have to kill all these zombies before you run out of the room, and you can't progress without killing them first. I don't have any other advice other than just being fast. Equip that fast hand perk. Regardless of how hard it was, I think it was a genius on Mrs. side to include this kind of section. You know, you already have an idea of how the combat is, and you probably know how many bullets it takes to kill an enemy. More specifically, the zombies. It's a genius on Mrs. side because it puts the player in a stressful situation, something they never thought they would ever be in. Even me, I did not expect to go through something this stressful, to be in one hallway with the enemies blocking my progress, with limited space behind me. I need to kill them as fast as I can, and that's the only thing you need to do. You just need to be fast, and this trains the player to, you know, be fast with their hands, to react much faster, to be more careful with their shots, to make every shot count, and to even, you know, reload even faster. Because By this time, even as a new player, I was having hard time reloading still. No, because I'm not really fast with my hand. And one thing I forgot to mention is that when you open the inventory, the game does not pause. It literally does not pause. So when you open your inventory, everything is still going around you. Even opening terminals or memos, the game does not pause. It does not wait for you to just have time to to take in everything. It still continues to play. So you're just pressured by so many things. You're just stressed out basically, and it's genius. I just love it. It's survival horror at its peak. And again, this section of the game, it makes the player feel weak. It makes me feel vulnerable more than ever. And you do feel vulnerable already, but this one just made me even feel much more vulnerable in this part. I felt weak. I felt like I couldn't progress. I was like really stressing out when I was first playing this part. But after your first playthrough, I think you'll be able to like progress a bit faster. Hell, I was able to do this part in hard mode in one try, I think. On the next level, you will find a terminal from Saint that talks about the rats he tested on with the parasite. These are the small, quick enemies that you encountered recently. I forgot to mention that you can outcrawl them. If you keep moving, they'll just suddenly stop chasing you and giving you another chance to draw your weapon and shoot them. Anyways, in this journal, Saint puts down what he found during his research on the rats. Basically, Saint used the Zecula cerebrum parasites on the rats despite Lucy's protest. Lucy is the receptionist. The rats instantly mutated when the parasite buried into its brain, which is basically what is happening to us. Saint notes down for the next steps. It is to find a rat with immunity or an anomaly. I find it funny that in the next step, one of them is to tell Lucy that progress cannot be made without sacrifice. Wow, what an asshole. In the same level, you will get your second weapon, the shotgun. It's essentially a one-shot for zombie enemies. One shotgun shell shoots out 5 revolver bullets. Zombies take up 4 shots from the revolver, so you can pretty much one-shot an enemy with it. Its shotgun shells take up twice as much as a revolver bullet. It takes up 9 slots. Much like the revolver, always reloads so you have more space to store ammo. On the next level, you'll be entering a very narrow path, which is the best place for rats to be at since you can't really crawl your way fast enough. So here, you really need to react fast. I really like this area, and it serves its purpose as being a stressful situation for the player. You have to listen to where the rustling is coming from so you're prepared to draw your weapon. As you progress in this level, you'll find a memo from the receptionist Lucy. Lucy mentions that she had a vision the day that Saint received a shipment of parasite, which is the same day we saw from the opening of the game. Her vision showed Pyrrhide, which is her god, appearing to her and telling her that the parasites were for her. So I looked up if Pyrrhide was a real thing, but it isn't. But something else did show up. Pyrrhide, which is an insect family, it's a large family butterfly to be more specific. There is also a breed of dogs called Pyridane, but in the context of everything, I doubt she saw Scooby-Doo in her dreams. She calls Pyrrhide her goddess of light and love. Butterflies usually symbolize change or transition, but this one article did catch my eye and attention. I thought it fit very well for this context. So butterflies represent a powerful beacon of growth and new beginnings. The butterfly signifies the power of transformation and incredible feats we can achieve when we trust ourselves. This is from a jewelry company. It's probably bullshit, but let me cook here, okay? Let me cook here. After reading the memo, the protagonist says,
I always knew she was delusional.
How base. In the next level, you'll find a terminal that has time slots for Provi, Saint, and Lucy. And Lucy is staying a bit late, and Saint even wonders why she's staying that late. She's a receptionist after all, but still, there's no reason for her to stay that late. She's starting to be a little sus. On the next level, you enter a huge room with shotgun ammo spread around and one button that leads to 4 doors. You press it and an army of zombies start going after you. Just shoot and run and reload and shoot and repeat. Make sure you don't allow the zombies to get too close to you since it could lead to you being cornered. So make sure you have enough space for you to move through. After slaughtering an army of zombies, you enter the next level. You'll obtain your third and most broken weapon, the flare gun. At first, I didn't think the flare gun was a pretty good weapon. I thought it just shot out a flare, which was just gonna light up my area and make me see a bit better, have a wider range of visual, have a wider range of what's going around me. But no, it burns the enemies. It's pretty fucking broken, and it bounces through the walls at least like 2 times. The flare gun only burns the enemies, and it takes up a lot of your inventory, so I don't really recommend having more than one in your inventory. Miz made the flare ammo smaller because I think a lot of people didn't use it that much. Originally it took up 14 slots, but honestly I don't really think it was necessary, but hey, I got to kill the boss faster. The flare guns aren't insta-kill, they just burn enemies as mentioned earlier, so it's more of a guaranteed kill than an insta-kill. In the next level, you'll find a terminal with a log by sign. It talks about a subject being immune and an anomaly. The logging states that the subject was widely considered to be a genius in their community as a mathematician and a philanthropist. Sign says that the parasites are financial and methodical. It chooses its host to keep alive. It was also shown that the anomaly gained physical and mental abilities beyond the regular human being. Science wonders how the parasites determine who they choose to keep alive and keep as their host, and who it mutates in favorable ways. He then asks in the terminal, what way is there if not a massive exposure? From this, it kind of makes Science kind of sus and probably makes him a suspect for the massive outbreak that has happened. We still don't know who started the outbreak again. But then again, this terminal kind of makes him suspect number 1 for the outbreak. After going through levels with no lore to be added, we get to the second area of the game, the maintenance area. This is one of 3 different walls and tiles design Miz made for the game. This is the second area, and that means we're halfway through the game. We're in its second act right now. I want to take this time to appreciate the game design. Miz really took the time in the little details like the sound design. The popping of each bullet from its chamber sounds so satisfying with each pop. In the maintenance area, if you ever go near the pipes, you can hear them running. The further you are, the fainter the sound. Miz stated in the devlogs that he recorded all the sounds from the game because he didn't want to use pre-existing assets.
Instead, record all the sound effects myself. So I bought a Zoom H1N to do field recordings and have been editing everything in Audacity. But for gunshots, I needed a little help. I hired a friend who owns guns and another friend who's an audio engineer to help me record gunshots and handling sounds. And for the monsters, I've just been doing voice acting on my microphone.
One more detail is how you move. Miz took inspiration from Gorilla Tag for how the player moves. For the player visibility, he took inspiration from Darkwood. In Darkwood, you can see important stuff when the player looks in the direction, but when you're looking away, it disappears on screen. It limits the player's visibility. It's almost kind of similar to ENDOPARASITIC, where you have very limited visibility in the game. I highly recommend watching Miz's devlog for the shadows in the game because he goes into detail, and not just the shadows, but especially other details like how the recoil wasn't a thing until someone on TikTok mentioned he should implement one. Anyways, you find the first terminal in the maintenance levels. It informs you that the water has been contaminated. It could have been caused by the outbreak of parasites. You crawl your way through the maintenance floors with the banger soundtrack by Jazz Mizzle playing. Then you find a memo left on the floor. They also tell you to move slowly and make little noises as you can. It's not long till you see what he means. Miz calls these corpse traps. The corpse traps are alerted by noise, so you have to move slowly. They're also attracted to gunshot noises, so don't use any of your weapons when you're in their range. Fun fact, corpse traps use the same IK code as the player's arm. That's why they look and move similarly. These guys are dangerous when other enemies are around. Not like you can go fast to escape a zombie, so you need to find a safe space where you can fire your weapon. These guys are a fun addition to the game, and I don't think the game would have been as good without them being involved to switch up the player's playstyle. You have to be very careful when crawling your way through the map now because with the limited visibility, these guys will surprise you. After sneaking past the corpse traps, you enter the next level and kill zombies and find another memo by Saint. In the memo, it says that the parasites are intelligent. Saint believes he is worthy to be a host for the parasite. In the end, he says, "Praise be to Null, my god of science, of absolutes." There is no such thing as null. I tried looking into it. There's no definition of null everywhere. There's nothing I could find that's, related at all. But Null is the god of science. That's all we know. After that, you get a dialogue from the protagonist.
How could I have been wrong? This thing is trying to kill me when I should have been its host, its ally.
This confirms the person that we've been playing as is Saint, the lead parasitologist. There were already many clues leading to this reveal, and in my first playthrough I didn't have the subtitles on, so I didn't know who we were playing as until this reveal. Also, I was planning to have this reveal being a much bigger thing because there was a dialogue between him and Pravi. And I thought that was the reveal, but I forgot it's dialogue assisted, so I'm kind of disappointed in myself that I forgot about that. This explains why he sounds so spiteful towards Pravi and why he sounded annoyed whenever Lucy's name came up in the memo.
Pravi, always finding ways to seem like he's in the right. I always knew she was delusional.
By now, we already know what kind of person Saint is. And I think that's genius that we never really learned his name until up to this point, because we are not meant to humanize with him. We are not supposed to relate to him. And it's genius that the art style makes him a silhouette, because we can't really see him, so we don't have a vision of what kind of person he is as a physical, because all we really need to know is what kind of person he is in the inside. He was probably the one to cause the outbreak, and he did want to become the anomaly, but he didn't. He wanted to be the anomaly because he saw himself as a smart person, because he was the lead parasitologist, making him think that he was better than everyone else. He always focused on his research. He never cared about anyone or anything, because all he cared about, again, was science. That's all he believed. That's why he was so annoyed when he wasn't picked by the parasites. So his theory on how the parasites determine their host is false. Kind of disproves everything that he's worked up to at this point. So we're actually picking the bad guy. What a twist. A twist so good Bioshock would shamelessly steal 9 years prior. On the next level, after getting hit by a corpse trap, you hear something snoring across the wall. Again, misrecorded all the sounds, so this could be him snoring. The dedication this man has for his game, I can respect it. You open the door and kill a zombie and then find a lab with 3 transparent cages revealing a large creature inside. You find a terminal that gives a chat log between Pravi and Saint, where Pravi messages Saint about the monkeys pounding the containments and the security guard has collapsed and mutated, and then the chat ends. This must have happened after the outbreak started. The creatures in the containers are mutated orangutans. If you crawl around, you'll notice that one of the containers is empty, meaning one of the orangutans escaped. After the laboratory, you go to the next level and find Pravi.
Sint? What in God's name's happened to you? Never mind. There's no time. The airlock is broken from this side. If you could just open the...
If I let you out, those things will get out as well. I don't think it's a very wise risk to take.
No, please!
Tell me what you know about the outbreak, Pravi.
Well, I saw one of the airtight containers we used to transport the specimens by the decontamination chamber. Someone intentionally released the parasites through the oxygen system.
So it was premeditated. It's rather fortunate that we had your vaccines then,
What are you implying?
Only 3 people in this facility had access to my research. And if it wasn't Lucy, and it wasn't you...
You think I let them out? You were the one considering a mass infection! You got what you wanted, didn't you?
May the gods have mercy on you, Pravi.
No, wait! Ah!
This is the first time where you'll actually hear the name Saint. Saint didn't confirm nor deny his hand in the mass infection. It's still possible he did it, but we are still unsure. We know that Saint has no regard to any life and puts his research above everything. There's plenty of evidence from the logging pointing to Saint, but there's also that one chat log between Saint and Pravi when the outbreak started, where Saint is unaware of the issue. On the next level, you find a memo from Saint that talks about the orangutans losing sight due to the parasite mutation, but in doing so, it increased their ability to hear. So you have to be silent when around the orangutans. You find a button and click it, which then emits a sound alarm that attracts the orangutan, which allows you to pass it. You find a door and a button next to it. When you click it, the door opens, but it also makes the same sound alarm, so you have to move fast. After successfully sneaking past the orangutan, you find your 4th and final weapon, and another memo with a tutorial on how to use it. I lied earlier. The crossbow is the most broken weapon in the game, not the flare gun. The crossbow is the most broken weapon easily. Easily one-shotting about all enemies, and is also silent, so you can use it in corpse traps areas. Also, the crossbow bolts are reusable, so you can pick them back up after shooting it. And there's no weapon durability either, so you can use it as many times as you want. You can use the same one that you picked up. There's no weapon durability. It's reusable. The only thing is that the reload is much longer. After shooting a crossbow bolt, you need to crank it. There's a crank that you need to do in circles, so you need to crank it in order to have the wire be pushed back, which can take some time for a newcomer like me. It took me a while to get a hand of it, but over time I was able to get used to it and make my reload much faster. And you have to also again manually put the crossbow bolt on the crossbow itself. Miz has a very descriptive detail on how he made the crossbow cranking mechanism, but I'm not smart enough to explain it, so again, go to his devlogs. They're amazingly well descriptive and detailed. I really recommend checking them out. Also, one detail I like in the recording room is that the room is so loud that the corp shops can't hear you, so you can go as fast as you can. The next level will be an orangutan encounter, which is a stealth section. You need to press 4 buttons spread out on the corners of the room in order to progress. Not only that, you have an orangutan, you have to sneak around, so you have to use the crossbow bolt, otherwise it'll come after you. There will be enemies guarding these buttons also. Or you can be a Giga Chad like me and kill the orangutan and the other enemies in the room. After sneaking past the orangutan or killing it, you'll enter the game's first proper boss fight, which is another orangutan. It's pretty easy, just shoot a flare at it and 1 crossbow bolt, then you're good. After shooting the flare, make sure you're out of its range because it will try to look for you by running in circles, and with each lap, the circle gets bigger and bigger, so you have to wait for it to calm down and shoot it with a crossbow bolt to kill it. With that said, this ends Act 2 of ENDOPARASITIC, and you move on to Act 3, which is set in the receptionist area. When entering the receptionist area, you'll find a memo from Lucy. It is a memo that is directed to the research board. It's basically an NDA that tells them that there were any injuries, accidents, or fatalities that may occur. It will not be told to anyone due to the confidentiality of the research. Even in the first terminals, it tells people that they aren't allowed to talk about the research station's location. Even in the first terminals, it tells people that they're not allowed to show the location. This implies that there has been a visit by the board members right before the outbreak. So they could have been caught exactly the moment when the outbreak started. As you progress, you come across this scrotum-like obstacle in the way. You shoot them and it drops ammo. So you shoot again and it drops more ammo. You shoot one more even though there's enough space for you to squish through. An enemy spawns after popping the bubble. This already tells you that not all the bubbles will drop ammo, so you have to be careful when popping these bubbles. Some of these bubbles will also drop vaccines. I recommend using the revolver ammo for this since you're probably gonna get more revolver ammo anyways. The bubbles will spawn either a rat or a zombie, so I highly recommend using the revolver. Later on, you find a memo. The memo is bloodied. The memo warns us about a creature that disappears. It ends abruptly as if something killed the person writing this. This person who wrote this could have been one of the board members. After popping these bubbles, you enter a larger room with more bubbles and an unrecognizable silhouette. You go close to it and then it disappears. You wonder where it went and then it appears again and dashes in with an attack. This is the teleporting hunter. You cannot kill it but only stun it. The teleporting hunter acts as this game's Mr. X, Nemesis, and Hunter from the Resident Evil and Dead Space. He will, well, hunt you and will appear throughout the rest of the game. The teleporting hunter has a 5 seconds cooldown until he appears again. Originally it was 3 seconds, but Miz updated the game and extended the timer. I guess some players had a hard time with it. You can also stun the hunter and it will stun for a good amount of time for you to collect items and reload your ammo. I recommend baiting the hunter into the bubbles and killing the enemies for you. It just makes things easier. Even when it spawns on top of an enemy, it will kill them. After escaping the hunter, you'll enter the next room and you can find a terminal. It's a log from Lucy. She talks about her vision and how she got a sign from the parasites. Sign calls Lucy brainless and reckless.
Not only is she brainless, she's reckless. I have half a mind to report her to the research board.
Again, not a good person. On the next level, I recommend popping the bubbles on the bottom right of the room because you'll need an exit there. After opening the door in the bottom left, you'll find a memo from Lucy. She says that she read the research of Saint, and she believes that she is the anomaly that Saint talked about in his research. Saint then gets mad and salty about the parasite picking her instead of him.
The very notion they'd pick her over me. How vain. How clueless.
Next to the memo, there's gonna be a tight space for you to crawl through and progress. And guess what? The hunter is there too. I cannot express how well implemented the idea of stressing the player out is in this game. It's not even annoying, it's just stressful, which is the goal. This is just very great. It's very survival horror. The next level will be the last push. The last push, then you finish the game. Use as much revolver ammo as you can because you won't be needing it anymore. Pop the bubbles and get more shotgun ammo and more syringes. After evading the hunter and killing the zombies and the rats, you finally enter the next room.
Lucy, you should be dead.
I'm more alive than I've ever been.
You're the one who let the parasites out. I can't believe it. I didn't want to believe it.
For as smart as you think you are, you've been putting this together a little slow for my taste. I let the parasites out because they asked me to. They wanted to make me their god.
It all makes sense now why the parasites were giving her science and her having a vision from Faraday.
Not you. All I had to do was let them flourish.
How could they pick you out of everyone? You're half-witted, vapid, ignorant.
You're the ignorant one, Sint. You think being dedicated to your work, worshipping knowledge, and valuing science over others' lives and happiness makes you above everyone else. You're not above me. You're not above Pravi. You're not even above the lab rats. You're immoral, unethical. You have no compass, no virtues, and you haven't even got the self-awareness to care. Without feeling, you're nothing.
Lucy is right, Science is nothing. He isn't a good person at all.
That's why they picked me. This universe has too many men like you.
After Lucy roasts the shit out of Science, she disappears. It's not clear whether she teleported or we saw a hologram. But since the anomalies are given powers, maybe she does have teleportation powers and it's not out of line considering there is a teleporting hunter. Anyways, Lucy disappears and the final boss fight begins. And this is the first time in the game that a health bar appears. For the final boss, just use your shotgun. Remove literally every other ammo and just have the shotgun shells in your inventory. This fight at first is kinda hard, and no joke, Miz had to rework this fight in a later patch to make it easier. It's not because the boss itself is hard, and trust me, it really isn't. What you gotta do is go to where the hunter is connected to and shoot the large mass of flesh. It's not random and it's fixed every time you play this section. The pattern is top right, bottom left, bottom right, then top left. The hard part is the bubbles you have to pop and sometimes will spawn an enemy, so you have to move quick, and if the bubble spawns where you are standing, then you take damage. Fortunately, the room is slippery because of the blood, so you have a speed boost to it. This is one of the things that Miz did mention he wanted to make about in this game. He wanted to implement a slippery section, and this is the only section where he ever implied that thought. After defeating the hunter, you enter the next room, and you find a terminal that says communications are cut off.
She sabotaged the comms. I'll have to get to the spacecraft before she does, or I'll be stuck here.
You drag yourself as fast as you can to the rocket. When you finally reach the exit, Lucy is waiting for you.
I won't kill you, Sint. The parasite will do a fine enough job of that.
You're just going to leave me here?
Why not? Isn't that what she would do? Good luck, Sint. May Pyrite have mercy on you.
Damn it. Now what?
Now you may be wondering, what the fuck is going on? Well, let's go through the events in chronological order with the help from the terminals and memos that we've read and the little dialogue that we've gotten from Saint, Pravi, and Lucy. The year is 2201, and humanity has given up on their old ways and religion. Instead, they worship God who they think fits their personality best. A facility was made on an asteroid far away from Earth, and this facility would be known as Research Lab 0233010299, and it's gonna be led by Sint. This research lab would receive a sample of Nautilus swarm. Lucy gets a dream from Faraday where she is told that the parasites were for her. Scientists provided data from the other labs and learn about immunity and anomalies and wants to find out how the parasites choose its host and decides to do a mass exposure in order to find out. Science researches into the parasites and finds out that they're older than his universe and hypothesizes that they either physically changed their appearance or came from another universe. Science then exposes fruit flies to the parasites and found out that those that were immune survived longer and were considered to be an anomaly, and notes that he will move on to a larger specimen to look into how the parasites choose its hosts. Lucy also protests against Science's use of lab rats for his experiments. At some point when Science was doing his experiments, Pravi ordered a batch of toxoplasmosis vaccines and was able to make it into a temporary vaccine for parasites and case them into containers and place them throughout the facility in case of an outbreak, since Science considered a mass infection and did it out of caution. Science is sure that the parasites are intelligent and is trying to find out how to establish the effects of their infection on worth host bodies. Lucy starts to do her own observations since Saint and Pravi won't notice her, and the parasites form the word "you" as a sign that she is an anomaly, and this confirms her vision she had with Pyroday. This explains why Lucy has been clocking out very late. Lucy receives a message from the board of researchers that they would like to have a meeting with Saint about his research. Lucy messages Saint about the set meeting with the board, but Saint gets angry and tells her to reschedule. At some point, Saint started experimenting on orangutans, who then started losing their sight. While this was happening, Lucy then contaminated the air ventilation in the decontamination room.
Well, I saw one of the airtight containers we used to transport the specimens by the decontamination chamber. Someone intentionally released the parasites through the oxygen system.
So it was premeditated.
Lucy greets the board members and gives them a memo as a sort of welcome, and if they die, their relatives and loved ones will not be informed due to the confidential nature of the research. People started mutating and probably messages signed that the orangutans are aggressive and that the security guard has mutated. The outbreak starts and people start dying. Saint was doing some laundry and encounters 3 zombies that tear off his 3 limbs, which is the start of the game. People try to defend themselves and failed, which leads to Saint finding weapons across the facility. The teleporting hunter is born and then starts killing the research board members.
Hey guys, sorry, a little bit of a correction with the timeline, but when Saint was in the laundry, I think he was getting dressed for the board meeting. And earlier I showed an image of dead bodies, but we couldn't enter the room. I believe those are the research board members. But I also still believe that there were some research board members that did escape, but were killed by the teleporting hunter.
We do play a villain, but it's not like Lucy's in the right either. I'm not gonna argue with Pravi being a hero or a villain because we don't really know much about him. And I think he wasn't really that important other than making the, toxoplasmosis vaccine. Lucy was a receptionist who probably felt lower than her peers, and Saint would always like to remind her that, and always would, think of her lowly as always. He would always call her dumb, reckless, delusional, call her names, basically. And Saint would always thought of himself as this smart person, above everyone else, above everything around him, and does not have any emotions towards anything that's living. And mixed with how Lucy's treated, the vision of Paradigm, it kind of makes her think that she has a purpose, a greater purpose, something that gives her meaning in life. And I think the parasites manipulated her. I don't think they were actually looking for a god or they actually saw her as a god. I think they just needed someone to help them expand and take over this universe, the endoparasitic universe. Because again, I do believe the Nautilus do come from a different universe. And one of the devlogs from Miz, he takes a quote that basically inspired the Nautilus. So if you concentrate enough energy in a single point, you can spawn a new universe. This is the inspiration for the Nautilus form. And I believe that the Nautilus made this endoparasitic universe. And I do believe they just manipulated the person who felt they were nothing. And again, with the rats thing, I don't think Synth's hypothesis was right. Again, rats are just fucking rats. I don't think they're intelligent to the point of human mind to question things or think of morality. And I do believe that rats are much more easy to manipulate, and I think that's why they manipulated Lucy compared to Saint. Saint wanted to use them, but the parasites wanted to use someone who could help them with their goals. I think Lucy has some similarities with, can't believe I'm saying this, Walter White from Breaking Bad. They both end up finding something that gives them greater purpose or just, makes them live. But in doing so, they harm others and end up killing many people along the way. Saint is right that she is crazy, and they're both right about each other. Both of them are not good people from what we've seen. They're just risking so many people's lives for their own goals. And I think that was the point for this story. The search for omnipotent power led to so much destruction and pain and death, and possibly the extinction of the human race in the endoparasitic universe. Both Saint and Lucy wanted to become gods, and one of them did end up doing it. I don't think Endoparasitic will have a sequel, but technically it kinda has, because Miz confirmed that Rot Flesh, one of his other games that he made a few years ago and available on Steam, is set in the same universe, and the Nautilus Swarm do make an appearance. But I have not played it, nor have I seen much gameplay about it, so I don't know if it really is a sequel or prequel, but I just know that they're in the same universe. I will play the game at twitch.tv/AncientKnightVTuber, please follow me. I just think that Lucy was just being manipulated, and she is characterized as kind of person that could be easily manipulated. When trying to find her symbolisms with the names or the terms, I couldn't find that much actually.
Although I found something interesting about Lucy's name. In Italian, it means light. Luce means light. So when looking into more symbolism behind light, I found this interesting sentence. Light is an ancient symbol of understanding and an intellectual thought. It is the opposite of ignorance and darkness. You can look at the story different ways. You could say that, yes, Lucy was their god, they actually did believe, or they were manipulating her. Or in another way, you can look at it like me, or I think it's ironic. And at the end of Endoparasitic, Lucy does call Saint ignorant, which is true. He's very ignorant. He's an asshole also at the same time. Again, there's just a lot of, there's still a lot of stuff to think about with this game, even for me. Like, I spent about, November, December. Spent about, 4 months figuring out this entire lore. And I did find, one video about the Secula cerebrum parasite. That's just a lore. Also, in Christian symbolism, God is represented through light shining down. When seeing Lucy, she illuminates light. Again, it's not clear whether she's actually teleporting or it's a hologram, but you can look at it both ways. But for this case, let's go with the latter. In lots of religious painting, these higher beings are painted with light illuminating from their body. Again, I don't believe the parasites saw her as a god and more of a pawn for their plans to expand. Again, we still don't know the plans for the parasites. And I think they're very similar with Dead Space with the Brethren Moons. And I think that's scarier. I think the lore is kind of similar to Dead Space in so many ways. And I think it's also horrifying at the same time. I think it's horrifying for this species that we don't know anything about and are just or even more intelligent than us and have more abilities than us to, have a goal that's as simple as expanding rather than a deeper meaning to it. It's just scary that they just want to wipe out the entire thing. To wipe out the entire universe just to have their own, just to keep it as their own. I found this game because Miz uploaded a devlog or a trailer, I believe, from his YouTube channel, and it was recommended to me by YouTube. And I thought the gameplay was very interesting because it was an indie game, and I was already getting tired of more corporate games, and I wanted something fresh, something new. I got it on wishlist, I bought it on Steam, I played it on stream twice. I played the hard difficulty on stream, which I'll get to. I have notes on that as well. The idea or the concept of everything moving from just your hand just intrigued me, and I thought, okay, this would be a fun game to just play with. I really want to experience something that's new and different and unique. When making this video for Endoparasitic, I tried looking up if there were more video essays about Endoparasitic, but there was none. I think I'm the only one. I mean, except for the lore video by that guy. Yeah. Not even Parasitical even made one, even though he said he's gonna make one. I beat him to it. I'm better than him. I'm fucking better than him. Someone in my chat actually said that the game was too scary for them to play, but I couldn't see it. And it's probably just from my experience and from my, playthrough. I wasn't as much scared. I was just more stressed, and I can kind of see where the fear or anxiety is coming from, because I guess, and I don't really remember my first playthrough that well. I just remember my recent playthroughs, especially the hard difficulty. But if someone in chat said that they were too scared to play, I think Miz really did a really good job with hitting the main 3 points of a survival horror game. Even though personally I did not feel a creepy atmosphere. And it's not because of the visuals, it's just that I don't get scared. I played Dead Space on stream and I was just mostly joking. Again, I have never played the Dead Space 1 game before. I only played Dead Space 2 and the mobile version. So I have no idea what's happening other than Nicole just being dead. But let's also get into how the game was made visually. The environment of the game has this sense of unknowing. Miz thought the environment looked bland when Endoparasitic was submitted to Ludum Dare, but kept the silhouette designs for the characters. In Ludum Dare 49, he experimented more and came up with a style while using Godot 3.2. With this, he imported it into Endoparasitic. The shadows in the game is intimidating and meant to limit the player's visibility, as I mentioned earlier in the video, and adding these blobs and spikes to it really makes the game stand out and immersive. To me at least, I wasn't scared again, but it made me very cautious when progressing through the game on my first playthrough, and it fits well with the game's enemies. I played the game 4 times and the corpse trap still makes me jump a little every time it hits, because sometimes I forget
during the game, and I was being careless when dragging myself across the levels. I never had an issue with this, but maybe for other players. The limited visibility also tenses up the combat area since you have to blindly aim and listen to where the enemies are coming from. Also, the sound design of different areas of the facility makes each stage memorable and distinguishes each act of the game. I have never played anything like ENDOPARASITIC, and I don't think I ever will again. The game unfortunately doesn't have any replay value other than the hard difficulty, which is part of an update later on. This is where most of my stream footage comes from because my lazy ass didn't decide to save the VOD of the first playthrough. The hard difficulty wasn't that hard. The enemies take up the same damage and from my experience didn't move any faster. The difficulty didn't add more enemies or stronger enemies in early play levels, but how could they? The stronger enemies don't really fit in the early levels, and there is no new game plus, so it's not like you can have all your weapons with you in the new playthrough. But I can't really be mad about the lack of new game plus because the game would have needed an entire rework in its levels and enemy placing. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm not gonna expect Miz to put more time into this game since it's already perfect, in my opinion. The only difference hard difficulty has is that there are no manual saves, less supply, less container drops, and less inventory packs, and that the teleporting hunter takes less time to appear and his stagger time is much shorter. I don't remember struggling with looking for ammo since I memorized how much ammo it needs to kill each enemy, and I was very careful when shooting my weapons. So I didn't struggle on that, but I did struggle on looking for more vaccines. But I don't think I softlocked myself. I did read some players did softlock themselves, which is kind of cringe. Skill issue, honestly. I highly recommend this game to fans of survival horror to check this out. It may not be as scary, but by Wikipedia's definition of survival horror, the game is good. I would like to give a shout out to Narayan Walters again because this man has other games made like Rot Flesh, Deus Do, Star Prey, and Intersection, which are all completely different genres from ENDOPARASITIC. He has a really wide variety of games and I hope to see more of his work in the future. ENDOPARASITIC costs $9.99 on Steam, or for Philippines, 289.95 pesos. So if you're really interested, then go buy it. It's pretty cheap.